Headline reads, policies. Imagine that. Democrat liberal policies, not greed, are driving California's sky-high gas prices, a new study finds. That's a shocker, isn't it? No. It's what we've known all along. You've just got layer after layer after layer of bureaucratic nonsense. And what happens? Refineries close down. They're like, yeah, we're not really doing business in California anymore. More are threatening to leave. Gas prices have one way to go, up, because you've constricted that supply. Let's get into it. Here we go. First sentence in this article is a good one. As Californians continue to wonder why they suffer disproportionately at the pump compared to other states, they don't. You guys know, all my folks in California, you know exactly why you are paying the highest in gasoline prices and fuel prices in the United States, more than Hawaii, where you got a slow boat from you-know-where bringing gas in. New study from a prominent researcher says the state's perpetually high gas prices are largely, here we go, self-inflicted. Liberal, Democrat, ideologically driven, not based in reality, policy. Self-inflicts. Reduce that supply. Where does pricing go? Up, not down, up. Michael Mies with the U.S. Marshall School of Business recently published a study of California gasoline prices, diving into the reason why California is typically the most expensive state in the U.S. to fill up your vehicle. The conclusion? California's high gas prices are the result of directed policies and a litany of regulations, taxes, fees, and costs. It's the partridge in a pear tree of nonsense that Democrats have layered in the ideologically driven concept of we're protecting the consumer, we're protecting the environment, all while just making life wildly more expensive. And gasoline, like here in the state of Washington, we've got the third highest gas tax in the United States. It's driving up gas prices, and we've got another 6-cent gas tax hikes coming. It's like, what do you expect? You live in a Democrat-run city and state, whatever it is. If it's Democrat-run, then you've got all these social programs and all this nonsense and all this waste that you have to pay for. Income to pay for all that has to come from somewhere. Revenue to pay for that has got to come from somewhere. You got to squeeze the people who are working. And that's what we're doing. And everybody else suffers with gas prices. Gas is one of those things that, everybody needs to use it because we're not all just riding around on the BART. You know what I mean? We're not riding around on that 220 mile an hour bullet train to nowhere in California because it doesn't exist. It's supposed to be done in 2020. How's that coming? Yeah, it's not. She's nowhere near being done. Massive cost overruns. They keep saying, well, we've got all the land together on it. And you're like, all right, when are you going to build it? I don't know. The data is overwhelmingly compelling, he told KTLA on Monday. There is no evidence of price gouging. Let me repeat that. There is no evidence of price gouging, either by gas station owners or refiners or oil producers in the state, at least widespread. So he's given, you got some you got some store that it's got a little gas station. There's nobody else around. Yeah, let's jack it up because where else they're going to go? All right. And not on a widespread basis. Let's watch a little video for Gruesome Newsom. He explains his position. Oh, and you know what? Here's that study. If you really want to get into it, study of California gas prices. It's 199 pages long. I skimmed the first few, and then I went to the Cliff Notes, the article, and read that. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. What is that? Cremation services? That's not what I was looking for. Here we go. Let's watch Newsom. The guy is so smooth that I think if people are devoid of thought, they're like, it sounds like it makes sense. And I think that's why so many people vote for him. He sounds like he makes sense, but when you break down his stuff, you're like, no, that is wildly opposed to reality. You're not living in the same reality that the rest of us are because you're spinning the truth. Here's my truth. See what he has to say.
Hey, California. It's Gavin Newsom here. The question I get more often than any other this time of year is, what's going on with the price of gas? You ever wonder why it's so high? Big oil, well, they say it's about our climate laws. But even if you factor in our clean air protections, big oil is charging Californians more for gas. Just think back. Remember when gas hit a record $6.42 a gallon. That was just a couple of years ago. Our taxes and our fees didn't change during that period. And crude prices were actually down during that same period of time. Yet our gas was $2.61 higher than the national average. What spiked were industry profits.
Industry profits are the end result for California's high gas prices. No, that's nonsense. It's just so much nonsense. And that's why I think, if he makes a run for presidency, good luck with that. Add the whole, oil and gas issue, California's oil and gas issue. Add that to homelessness, response to the wildfires. There's a whole litany: homelessness, crime, affordability. You just run sequence after sequence after sequence of that. And I think people get the idea, because he can't spin his way out of it. You can't actually tell me this and expect me to believe it. It's just not true.
That's why we passed a new law to crack
good.
price gouging.
Good.
Just to investigate and stop big oil from overcharging you. California's Energy Commission is even working on a price gouging penalty to keep them in check. 4 companies, this is important, 4 companies control 90% of our refining in California.
Why is it that you only have 4 refineries? Oh, and Chevron's leaving, right? Valero's leaving. Yeah, okay. So how's that going to work out? Chevron, after 145 years in California, they're moving their headquarters to Houston, Texas. Who knew? Valero's closing down their refining. I mean, nobody wants to be in California. And Valero, the last refinery that they were going to, they had all their options on the table. They didn't even sell it. They're just like, yeah, we're just going to close it down. Just boop, done. We're out. California, go F yourself.
And they're driving up prices at your expense. Don't buy.
They're driving up prices at your expense. No, Gavin Newsom, your policies have driven up gasoline prices. Here in the state of Washington, our governor, Jay Inslee, drove up the cost of gasoline with this carbon tax Mickey Mouse nonsense because, they're so concerned about the environment. But go to any homeless encampment and tell me really how concerned they are. California, how about you go to lots of streets in Oakland? Tell me how concerned you are really for the environment in your own state. Look around, see what that looks like. And you tell me you're actually concerned about the environment. I don't think so. Just don't buy any of it.
Scare tactics from big oil. Our clean air policies aren't the problem. Greed is. And we're fighting to make sure you get a fair deal at the pump.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. You know what? I follow Megyn Kelly fairly often. I can't take too much stuff, going into my head that's just, you follow too many people and you're like, good Lord, the earth is going to stop spinning anytime. But she has been, she's been saying, I think she said to Tucker Carlson, they used to work together at Fox. She said to Tucker Carlson, the Republicans should not be going on Gavin Newsom's podcast because he's basically practicing for things he needs to say, ideas he needs to have, arguments he needs to have when he runs for governor in 2028. Because that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. So all this other nonsense, he's trying to spin off and get away from the idea that it's his fault. Well, reality is it's his fault. Will Democrats in California recognize that? Nah, because here in Washington, they don't either. They're just like, well, we need a clean environment, so therefore let's have gas go to $10 a gallon, even $15 a gallon if need be. It's just absurd. It's absurd. And you're like, all right, somebody thought this was a good idea. Mish came to the conclusion that after examining about 50 years of gas prices throughout the state and analyzing what led to spikes and lulls, to uniformly acknowledge that California has the most stringent regulatory environment for oil and gas companies in the world. And when you have stringent regulations, guess what? You got all kinds of policies, all kinds of extra layers of nonsense that oil and gas has to do. You gotta create the custom blend for California, this super clean gasoline. That's what has to be. California has standards higher than anybody else. And as a result, the refineries, they got to make gas special for California. Regulatory oversight, irrespective of one's political perspective, is layered into and accumulates throughout the supply chain. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. That's what's causing it. And that's why other areas that don't have all this Mickey Mouse nonsense, all these other shenanigans thrown in, literally the gas pipeline, they don't have gas prices the way that California does, the way that Washington does, the way that a lot of Democrat big cities that are concerned with environment nonsense, ultimately adding to the cost burdens of compliance for oil and gas industry operators, which in turn contribute to higher consumer prices at the pump. Not that hard to figure out. But hearing Gavin Newsom trying to spin it, I mean, it's entertaining as he tries to spin, we're the fourth largest economy in the world, which they are. California's big. They're huge. And I think there was a net in-migration of 80,000 people, 110,000 people, something like that. I mean, it wasn't huge, but, they've got people coming in. So California, just based on its sheer population, is a massive, massive driver of the economy. And so they can get away with a lot of nonsense because they've got revenue coming in. And that's how they've been able to basically just, avoid any real major impact from all of this. But look at all the businesses that have left. Gavin Newsom spins, we've got this business coming in, we've got this business coming in. During the pandemic is when I think it was really a spotlight was put on the fact that it's policy that's driving all these businesses out. It's policy. It's all this layered nonsense that results in this end thing, which is taxation is through the roof. Who wants to do business there? They don't. They're leaving. Mish and other experts refute Gavin Newsom's claim that oil companies have been gouging California drivers for years and that greed has played a larger role than policies and market forces. Biden was the one that kept throwing that out there as well. Corporate greed. And even Kamala Harris ran on a campaign of, we need to stop the price hikes. We need to cap prices. And you're left with, good luck with that. That'll be interesting to see. Is everywhere you cap prices, like rental cap prices, right? Washington State's doing the same thing. It just tells investors, we don't really want you here because we're going to throw all this nonsense at you. And as a result, you're going to make less money. So, the investors who put together enormous complexes with multifamily housing, they're not going to come to Washington with that kind of thing going on, Washington State. So the governor has targeted the industry with investigations and legislation aimed at increasing transparency and keeping prices in check. And what does that do? It has the opposite effect. It increases the prices because now you've got less refineries in the market. You're going to have like 7 refineries left in California, and you can't really import the gasoline because it's got to be that special quality blend. It's so clean. In a statement to KTLA, a spokesperson for Newsom said he has avoided severe gasoline price spikes like the historic 2022 spike since he signed a price gouging bill 2 years ago. It was that price gouging bill that refineries looked at that and went, that's the final straw. You are now telling us how much in reserves we can have. We've got a holding cost related to that. This no longer makes sense to do what we do in your state. We're out of here. We're not going to invest billions of dollars in these plants that need overhauling, that need major work, because it's not conducive for us to do business with the state of California. We've seen it time and time again. I mean, it's basic logic. You push business out, you have fewer businesses providing that commodity, whatever it might be. Less constricted that supply, price goes up. Not that hard to figure out. So the law established the nation's first state-level independent petroleum watchdog to hold big oil accountable. And how's that working out? And the state has more transparency from the industry than ever before. You're always talking about transparency, but how about the actual price of gasoline in California? What's that look like? Well, it's the highest of any state in the United States. So you tell me. It's not that hard to figure out. Actions have effects. And your actions have caused gasoline prices to go to the tippy top. Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy. You guys use that app, Gas Buddy, and get some cheap gas 14 miles down the road, 13 miles further than the one close to me, but I'll save 2 cents. Questions the approach of Newsom and California Democrats. If price gouging is really the culprit, he asks, why then is gas in California so much more expensive than in other states? I'm going to have to think about that and get back to you, right? At the beginning of this podcast, that was one of my thoughts as well. Yeah, other states don't have it. These refineries, I mean, they're servicing the whole United States, right? But just California has really expensive gas. You know, try and spin that. You can't. You can't, because it avoids reality, which is you've created these high gas prices. These are costs only associated with California. California has done a terrific job chasing refineries out of the state and suddenly wondering why they don't have enough gas or prices skyrocket. How did this happen? I don't understand. We defunded the police. Why did crime skyrocket? I don't understand. Why do we have a rash of burglaries going on? Why is that happening? I don't get it. Oh. Another reason for the state's rising prices is the decline of the state's oil production. California is by far the largest economy in the U.S., but it's 7th in oil production. The numbers don't lie, right? Facts don't care about your feelings. At various points between 1903 and 1930, California was the country's top producer of oil. Now, less than a dozen refineries will be open by the end of 2025, with more likely to close in the years after. Absolutely. Why would they stay? What's the incentive for them to stay? They do not have one. They got to make money. They got, that whole corporate greed thing. Well, greed is good. Greed is good. Greed works. Remember that? California's unique blend of gasoline for vehicles mandated by environmental policies isn't widely manufactured by refineries in places like Texas and Oklahoma. So a majority of California's products come from the Middle East. It just kills me. So California is facing perhaps a severe supply shortage, he said. Supply has come down faster than demand. Simple economics will tell you prices will go up. So that, the oil that you're bringing in from the Middle East, yeah, that comes in on big, big ships that, guess what? Run really dirty fuel. That's what it takes to run a tanker across the world. Dirty fuel. If you're an environmentalist, I just see it as, well, that's how we're doing it. That's what we're doing. So all of that whole climate thing, clean air, clean fuel, virtue signaling about the environment just basically gets absolutely submarined as that tanker comes in from the Middle East to drop off oil because California doesn't produce enough of its own. Make that make sense. It doesn't. The whole thing is just, But that's what most of California's policies are. So keep voting blue. I'm sure it'll work out. We'll be doing more podcasts. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for being here. We'll catch up soon. Bye for now.